everybody, I'm Beebs Kelly. Welcome back to another video. Last night was Hollywood's biggest display, the Oscars. The Academy Awards happened last evening, and the red carpet was not exactly what I expected. Right off the bat, though, the first thing I noticed before even any stars showed up was that the background was tremendously better. So much better. It's just this plain cream sort of ivory background with the gold Oscar icons all over. Nothing too busy, nothing too intense, no crazed patterns or bright colors. The pink flowers on top and the red carpet looked really nice, but didn't interfere with anybody's outfit while still providing some degree of color. So after an awards season where we had many a busy background really disrupting outfits, I was relieved right off the bat that this background was nice and simple. As for the fashions though, well, I wasn't exactly blown away. While there were quite a few real serious stunners, I did expect just a bit more. I guess one thing has been consistent for the awards season this year, and that is somewhat underwhelming. But don't get me wrong, there were still several really amazing looks, and this was by far the most successful red carpet awards show we have seen this year. Now, I was rushing to get this out. I was trying not to be a slowpoke this time. So if there are any errors about like who's wearing what or something like that, please forgive me. I noticed some publications had conflicting information on what designers certain stars were wearing, and I just didn't have time to cross-reference that even further, every single outfit. So please forgive me if there's any mistakes. As usual, we organize by designer for special fashion editions like awards shows. So let's begin with one of the more popular choices, which was Versace. Cillian Murphy opted for this really classic suit. I feel like it just looks better. It looks a little bit more elevated, a little bit more polished. It's got a little bit more of an edge to it. I thought he looked really nice. In one of the brightest pops of color of the evening, we have Regina in this gorgeous orange dress. I love this. It looks spectacular and it's very flattering to her body. These swooping, curved, sort of diagonal lines cascading across the bodice here with just a little bit of sparkle to them are so beautiful. It flatters her figure. It enhances her waistline really nicely. That just feminine curve is really brought out by this design element. And the sparkle is just enough to elevate it to where it doesn't look too simple or too plain. It adds that bit of edge without also overwhelming it at the same time, because it is a bright pop of color. Doing more sparkle or more embroidery or more to it may have been too much. So this was just a striking balance that worked beautifully. Margot Robbie also opted for Versace, and this one, as many commented, it seems the number one comment always with Margot this year is it Barbie or is it not? It's a departure from Barbie or it's so Barbie. Well, you know, the woman just wanted to wear a dress to the Oscars, all right? I think we need to stop associating it with Barbie all of the time. This one, I quite like it. It's very balancing to her figure. The draping across the hip, I could see some people finding a little bit heavy, but it actually creates a really nice balance for her figure overall and for her shoulders there. It helps to enhance her waistline really nicely. Notice the neckline of this is curved. So that does two things for her look here this evening. It eliminated the need for a necklace. While a nice choker necklace probably would have been a nice addition, it wasn't necessary due to that neckline, and it also helped to avoid the appearance that it's falling down. I'm not sure I love the bracelet. It looks a little bit chunky and just ever so slightly out of place for the dress itself, but maybe it holds special value. As for the hair, I'm a little disappointed in the hairstyle. It definitely looks, especially with, as you can see, there's like a slight bend, like right about here. It looks like she had it behind her ears and then just did one of these, tuck it out from behind the ears. You get that little bit of a bend right about this area. When you do that, that's what it looks like. It looks like she didn't do anything to her hair except have it behind her ears all day and then pop it out from behind the ears for the red carpet. I think she could have done something way more with her hair. I certainly don't mind a more casual hairstyle sometimes when it serves the outfit well, but this one might have been taking it just a tad too far because it almost looks unbrushed. So perhaps just reining that in just a tad would have been nicer, give her a little bit more polished look. But America Ferrera is the one who really won Versace looks for the evening. This is gorgeous and stunning in every way. It fits her perfectly. It flatters her figure phenomenally. This is the best America has looked all awards season, for sure. This is her absolute best look here. Everything about it is spectacular. I absolutely love the neckline. It's sort of like a sweetheart with a V wire in the front. It's really, really beautiful. The color is spectacular. I love it. I want this dress. I would wear this dress. It's amazing. The only thing I'm not totally in love with is the necklace. I feel like something that maybe had a pink hue to it may have been nicer, but you know, not everything can be perfect, and the dress is so spectacular. I don't care what necklace she wore, at least she had one on this time. I also think that a matching bracelet would have really tied the look in and just elevated it even further, but it looks fabulous in every way. This is great. Moving on to Dolce Gabbana, we have Danielle Brooks in, again, her best look of the season. Thank goodness. If there is one awards show you want to bring your best, it would be the Academy Awards for sure. So this is just absolutely gorgeous. Her accessorizing, her styling for this, the hair, the makeup, the jewelry, all work really nicely and flow fabulously together. Nothing is interrupting or distracting from the dress. Everything is complementing the dress beautifully. Perfect. The linear, shimmery contours of the bodice are so flattering for her. It really draws in the eye for the waistline, giving it an even more well-defined visual, so that's really, really great. The bodice looks relatively nicely fitted. I mean, it doesn't look absolutely perfect. It may have benefited from a slight sweetheart vibe, but it's definitely not the worst. We have seen her in some truly tragic busts and bodices that did not fit her around here at all. This one does fit her. Could it have been slightly improved? Perhaps, mayhaps, but it's fine. It really is. I think this looks very beautiful. The only thing I'm really noticing or distracted by is that the band where the train is attached, the like sort of bow at the back with the train coming down, that fabric is coming off a little wrinkly. So it would have been nice if it was a slightly different fabric, perhaps one that matched the skirt. I'm not sure. It just came off a tad wrinkly. Again, I'll take it because the look overall is fabulous, but it could have been improved. It also looks maybe just a tad bit heavy. Opera gloves really could have pushed this even further into like a real wow moment, but overall, this being the best I've seen her in so far and being very flattering to her figure, very polished overall, is a total win. In the same designer, we also have Jamie Lee Curtis looking really nice. It's classic, it's flattering, it's chic. There's definitely no complaints from me here on this. It could have been more exciting. Yes, totally, 100%. But honestly, after the disasters we have seen throughout the season, I will definitely take flattering over pizzazz. By far, the most popular designer of the evening was Louis Vuitton. Both Colman Domingo and Bradley Cooper opted for this designer, and neither of them are like my absolute favorite. The boot cut, slight flare trousers are coming in for men at this time, so I think a lot of people aren't quite warmed up to that silhouette, myself included. It's not my absolute favorite silhouette at this time, but I think it has potential for sure. I really like certain details of these looks. I like the embellishments, the buttons, for example, the bow tie on Colman's. I like those sorts of touches that really elevate these tuxedos. Bradley's overall looks maybe a little bit top heavy, especially as compared to Colman's that looks more balanced, but overall these are successful looks. And then in this clearly really, really well-made dress, we have Cynthia Erivo in this green hue that's very beautiful, but something about it just isn't quite working. I think I really would have liked to see it without the sort of dramatic shrug. It would have been more elegant without that. I don't hate it. It definitely adds more to the silhouette, but I think that this color, although it's impeccable and beautiful, paired up with the leather fabric choice, just isn't quite marrying perfectly for this event. I'm not sure. Also, the bust is clearly very poorly fitted. There's just something is completely ill-aligned for her bust, which is really unfortunate. So this one I'm clearly conflicted about, but Ava DuVernay I'm less conflicted over. I love this powder blue hue. This is gorgeous. I love the dress overall. It's so beautifully fit to her. It's working perfectly in every way, but these straps are way too over the top. I'm really not in love with these straps. They're too overalls or backpack or I don't know, parachute. They're just huge chunky straps that I feel like they really took away from the look. This being the Oscars, I think that those big buckles would have been better suited to a different awards show. Critics' Choice, SAG Awards, Golden Globes, but the rest of the dress looks fabulous. Her hair, her makeup, her styling, accessories, all beautiful. This is a gorgeously beautiful glittery dress with a chiffon train and a massive ruffled sleeve detail. This looks like it was trying to lean into that opera coat inspiration with its big sleeves and the train, but I think that it could have maybe been edited down to be slightly less voluminous. Also, I'm really not a fan of the neckline for her. This halter neckline is just not as flattering. It literally looks like it's right underneath her chin, all the way up, and it's giving just a slightly less flattering look over here by the armpits. I think that it could have been more successful if it was a different neckline, perhaps even just had some sleeves and toned down those big, ruffly poof ball sleeves. I do like the chiffon detail. The one thing that's really catching my eye though is that there seems to be a color change. At the bottom of the bodice there before the skirt begins, or right where the skirt begins, it looks like there's a white lining that just sharply stops. That should not be happening. The designer definitely should have added an additional layer underneath there to just continue that down so that there wasn't that clear line, because that's all your eye goes to, because the rest is so monochrome. Despite having a lot of texture and sparkle and interest and fabric change, this is so harsh and so horizontally just perfectly straight across. That's all you stare at. So that did a huge disservice to her otherwise really nice look. This is, again, one of the best looks she's had this award season. Now on to Emma Stone, who had probably the best Louis Vuitton look. This is gorgeous. This jacquard mint peplum dress is so fabulous. It really is a perfect choice for her and her body type. She has slightly narrow hips, a really rather rectangular body type. So this gave the illusion of such gorgeous figure with this beautiful peplum hitting her at just the right spot. Clearly, the back of her dress needed a little work because when she went to accept her award for Best Actress, her dress was broken in the back and she was quite distracted by that. So that was unfortunate. I'm not 100% behind the necklace. I'm not sure it matched perfectly. I would have loved to see something with perhaps a peridot would have been really cool. But overall, this is really gorgeous. I love the interest of the fabric. The color is something new and different. The shape of it is very dramatic. The rest being all pretty monochrome really brought great balance. Let's take a look at undeniably the most impressive dress we saw on the red carpet. And that was from Anya Taylor-Joy wearing Dior Haute Couture. This took 3,500 hours of embroidery to make. It looks familiar because Natalie Portman wore another version of this dress to last year's Cannes Film Festival. This design pays homage to Dior's 1949 masterpiece that was inspired by Botticelli's Birth of Venus, one of my absolute favorite Dior pieces of all time, one of my absolute favorite Botticelli pieces of all time, and this and Natalie Portman's are both just some of the most spectacular dresses out there. They are so gorgeous, so impeccably well made, just stunning. And Anya carried it so very well. She looked beautiful, elegant, just poised to perfection. This is a true winner right here. Jennifer Lawrence also wearing Dior. I love the dress. You guys know I love polka dots. This is fabulous, but I hate the hair. She does these sort of slicked back hairdos sometimes that I just think age her a little bit and are just less flattering. This particular dress with its asymmetrical sort of shawl inspired sleeve construction would have been such a statement with an updo or like a ponytail or even like a half up. Something perky and sort of almost playful but still elegant would have made this such a look. It would have been the biggest wow moment ever if she would have just done something more up. I can't unsee it, so I really wish she would have done something different with her hair. Otherwise, I personally love this look, as biased as I may be. Charlize Theron in this slinky silver satin dress had a lot of asymmetry going on up here, and she carried it really, really nicely. It is a beautifully made dress, but because she was absolutely dripping in jewelry, I really feel like the dress could have even been more simple than this. The jewelry was what we were really drawn to look at. So we didn't get to take in as much of the dress when it came to the overall look, but she did a really good job by keeping her hair and makeup really simple to not compete further. Next celebrities opted for Gucci. And Lily Gladstone's was not only spectacular, but also quite special. This was designed in collaboration with an indigenous artist named Joe Big Mountain. And this has this gorgeous blue velvet that I am obsessed with. This fabric looks so rich and delicious, especially in this color. I'm obsessed. The pattern on the train is so beautiful, and it's echoed perfectly along the neckline here. I think she looks beautiful. It is probably the best she's looked all award season. And look, it doesn't give the falling down vibe across the neckline here. Really fabulous. It is possible to not get that quad boob, squashed boob, it's falling down look. She had that happen, unfortunately, at one of the earlier awards season shows, and this one avoided that problem for the most part. It looks really nice and polished. Her jewelry, necklace and earrings, bracelet and ring all match the look beautifully. This is very flattering to her shape without losing interest either. This is just a wonderful look. Ryan Gosling's look is not wowing me. It's not blowing me away here. I think it's nice. The snazzy trim is an interesting departure from a classic tuxedo. I think he looks polished. He looks nice. It works with the shoes. It's not my favorite, but it's still nice. And Kirsten Dunst also looked impeccable in Gucci. This square neckline really modernized an otherwise very simple dress and elevated it a bit. Elegant hair and makeup was a perfect match. She could have gone for some jewelry here, a necklace or a bracelet or something to really push it a little further, but overall this is a polished, chic, classic look. Next up is Balenciaga, and I have to admit, I was a little surprised to see stars opting, especially like Michelle Yeoh and Carey Mulligan, opting for Balenciaga because I thought they were firmly out in timeout after their weird and creepy ad campaign a year or two ago. But we will look at the dresses anyway. Michelle Yeoh's dress I quite like, but the sparkle, texture, and fabric of the dress combined with the draping across the chest in particular and the neckline is on the border of messy visually speaking. I wish that would have been just tidied up a tad. It didn't need that extra dimension to it because it had all this sparkle in two shades. It has two metallic shades here. One's a little more gunmetal-y, one's a little more bright silver. But I absolutely love her styling. These opera gloves, the shoes, the jewelry, the makeup, the hair, the earrings, all of it is perfection for this look. Carey Mulligan just simply cannot stay away from black and white mermaid gowns, now can she? This whole awards season, that's all she's worn with the one exception of the absolutely stunning gold dress she wore to the SAG Awards. This one, she's back in her comfort zone with the mermaid dress. I quite like it. I think it's really beautiful. The opera gloves are perfect. They hit at the exact perfect point to match up with that sweetheart neckline. It doesn't look like it's falling down, in part thanks to the sweetheart neckline, and obviously it is well fitting. I like this sort of dramatic, oversized scalloped edge along the bottom, but I can see lampshade resemblance for that tulle flared skirt at the bottom. So in this otherwise very sophisticated look, I could see that being slightly problematic. But my biggest question is, why is she without a necklace here? What's happening? She needed a necklace. Maybe even some pearls would have been really nice to echo the lampshade skirt. But some sort of necklace was definitely in order for this look. Another really popular choice for the evening was Loewe. Jodie Foster in this very pretty midnight blue satiny dress. Both Celine Song and Greta Lee really have gravitated towards Loewe. I think they've both worn Loewe almost exclusively all awards season. And this is definitely Celine Song's best so far. It's not too oversized, it's not too frumpy. I like the lapel pin. Greta Lee looks impeccable. The neckline, the earrings, the dress itself from the waist up looks so stunning and gorgeous. This graceful sculptural element to this dress with this draped white train is very beautiful and interesting, but it may look a little too much like drapes, and I'm not 100% behind the really abrupt stop that they have there on the hip, where it just looks like they're literally just tacked on. Almost looks like they've just been stapled on there or something. I think that could have had more graceful finish to it, as this just looked a tad chunky. In perhaps the most interesting Loewe dress, we have Andrea Riseborough in this tartan dress, and it's a look. It's doing its own thing here, but what really fascinated me and caught my eye was how it blurs in the skirt. It just all of a sudden blurs out, and I think that's really interesting. Is it an Oscars appropriate dress? Probably not. On the other hand, Lupita Nyong'o understood the assignment and really brought full Oscars glam to the Academy Awards red carpet. This is absolutely gorgeous. This is by Armani Privee. This powder blue is an absolutely beautiful color. It's something fresh for the red carpet. This particular dress, the line down the center, the sparkle, all of it is just so dreamy and decadent, but I'm not in love with the hip feathers. I feel like the hip feathers, they look a little just tacked on there, a little bit less flattering than they could have. I do like the feathers down at the bottom. I'm just not in love with them at the hip. I get they're kind of needed for the continuity, and they do offer great balance to her overall silhouette. I just think they maybe could have been done a little bit better or something. I don't know. What do you guys think of the hip feathers? And Zendaya, also in Armani Privee, just hit it out of the park. This looks amazing. I absolutely love this dress. This is gorgeous. It's flattering to her, and her styling, once again, is over-the-top fabulous. Choice of hairstyle is perfect. And in Giorgio Armani, we have Huy Quan looking very, very nice. This is a fabulous suit for him. Next, in a fondant and buttercream-inspired dress, we have Ariana Grande. I love the color of this. I think the shoes are great. The necklace is great. But the dress itself, I'm just not loving. This is by Giambattista Valli, and he tends to go a little too over the top with things, and this is no different. The balloon sleeve sort of opera coat situation, and it has so much in it, it looks filled with down, a la Margot Robbie's SAG Awards dress. It looks like she's carrying around a comforter. It just does, like a duvet. I'm not loving that. I think that that creates too much volume, too much imbalance. It hides the dress itself. It's not the drama we're looking for. Then in a rare miss from Christian Siriano, we have more of this fluffy tiered skirt trim. This fluffy trim ended up looking really stiff and moving in a really heavy manner, while tacked onto this tulle overskirt. Erica Alexander's Christian Siriano dress just looks messy. Everything about it is reading messy. It's the tulle skirt, the waistband, the fact that you can see the underside of that ruffled high-low skirt on top there. All of this just looks like she had a beautiful white dress and just popped this sort of tutu-type skirt on top. That just looks amateur. Handful of ladies ended up in dresses that really kind of washed them out and came across a little overwhelming despite having some degree of potential. Starting with Amber Mid Thunder here, this one's bodice definitely needed improving. It's very unflattering to the bust. It's taking away from her waistline. It looks a little bit cheap because it's got a little bit of wrinkling to it here and there, a little bit of puckering along the seams. This definitely needed some improvements, and the color is not really doing much for her either. Claudia's dress is also washing her out just a tad and coming across just a little too plain for this particular occasion. I think the shoes were the right choice though. And Greta Gerwig, in a similar hue, actually had the most success she's had all season. This is the best Greta has looked all awards season, 100%. She looks fabulously polished. This dress flatters her figure. Look, no frump, no excessive volume, no nothing, just kind of overtaking her and making her look bulky, frumpy, and amateur. This looks really nice, very polished. Good job. I'm really happy to see her in something that is more flattering to her, something that actually compliments her and looks really nice and polished. Meanwhile, Julianne Hough gets full boo treatment here. This is horrendous in every way. Is this a joke? I don't understand what's happening here. It looks like she is inspired by Clown on Stilts. I'm not sure. This is a disaster. These are actually pants. They are humongous pants that quite literally are sewn to her bandeau, her sparkly, fringy, pinata-inspired bandeau. This is bad in every way. Nothing about this looks good or nice. The pants actually just look like tablecloths because of the fabric, because of the color, because of the way that they're sewn at the bottom in the hemline. They literally look like two big tablecloths just sewn onto a bandeau. It's a disaster. There were a handful of dresses that got mixed reactions online that were a little bit polarizing, and Hailee Steinfeld's was one of them. A lot of people found this to be a really dated look with the chiffon skirt and train. I'm not sure I would necessarily categorize it as dated, but I definitely think it looks like it's falling down. The neckline is not working out, and it's just creating this like really big space here. If it were hiked up appropriately, where the bust was actually up where it's meant to be, where it should be, then it wouldn't have had so much space up here. It would have looked a lot more balanced with this chiffon scarf across the neck. It's really interesting with the cuffs that echo the bodice. I think that that is very different and not dated at all. I think that that is quite interesting and new and fresh. And this is by Ellie Saab. I also, again, am really liking this powder blue color that we're seeing. And this one's a little bit more seafoamy. I think she also did a good job of choosing the right hair and makeup and jewelry for this, something that's not going to compete with all of this interest happening across here. In AMI Paris, we have Issa Rae. I love the hairstyle she chose. I love this color for her. I love the shoes. They go well. The jewelry, all of those things work nicely. The makeup is fabulous. However, there is a little bit of heaviness happening with the shoulders and the neckline and the rouging across the waist. I think she could have opted for something that was a little bit more flattering to her figure, because it is ever so slightly widening across the waistband and a little heavy on those shoulders. Otherwise, I think this is a really beautiful option. The skirt is this really dark, like forest green velvet. It looks fabulously sumptuous. These two did, however, look a little bit dated. Combination of fabric, color, and construction just looked less polished, less elevated, and definitely in need of a bit of an update. In a gorgeous yellow dress, we have Brittany Snow. I love this. I love the color of this. I love the fabric. I'm not a fan of the petal cup situation. I think it's not as flattering. It creates, like we've seen with some other designs, a bit of an inverted nipple effect to the look. It's just not as flattering on the boob. If it weren't for that, I would have really, really loved this. Not 100% behind this necklace choice for this particular dress. Otherwise, I think it was a really nice attempt. Elizabeth Cohen's silver metallic look left all the interest to the hemline here. This was a really interesting, fresh take on the silver trends. To have this high-low effect in the front there and her choice of shoe not competing with it in any way, I think was really nice. And then we saw two ladies in dresses that were very reminiscent of, nay say inspired by, Catherine, Princess of Wales. Nikki Bentham wore this dress that is very similar to this fabulous dress that Catherine wore many years ago. On Nikki here, I think it would have been a little bit more successful with slightly less structure to the shoulder. It just created a slightly frumpy look up here, but otherwise I think it was really beautiful. And Sarah McFarlane is wearing what looks to be the Jenny Packham Goldfinger dress that Catherine, Princess of Wales, wore to the 007 premiere a few years back that has become completely famous and iconic and wonderful. This is really beautiful. I think it looks really nice, but she definitely should have opted for an updo. Time for some menswear. These looks are just fine. You know, they're not wowing me. They're nothing absolutely amazing, pushing the envelope or standing out in particular. Whether it's, you know, in this case, the color combination and the bits of wrinkles here and there just isn't quite pulling off this attempt. Meanwhile, some others are just fine, just classic tuxedos, looking really nice and polished, but not necessarily wowing. While others were perfectly fine, beautiful tuxedos, very handsome, but on the other hand, we had a few less successful options. Simu Liu's here is fabulous until you get to the shoes. And the pants, they either needed a different shoe to make the hem of the pants work properly, or he needed the pants to be just a tad bit longer. This is just looking a little awkward, a little dorky here at the bottom. But I do like the suit jacket, and that pin there is very interesting. And she looks absolutely fabulous as well. I really like the sculptural element to the skirt that echoes the neckline here. I think they look really nice together, except for the hemline of his pants. Omar Rudberg forgot his shirt. It does not look good without a shirt. Big surprise. Rami Youssef's isn't my favorite, and Reese Feldman's is my absolute least favorite. This time, I wasn't a real fan of Robert Downey's suit. I think there's something funky going on up here with the neckline situation. It's trying to lean Western, I feel like. I feel like that cut of pant isn't as flattering as it should be for him. And as far as his wife's dress, the neckline, that plunge and stuff, it looks like it's just not high enough. It's not flattering her bust, and it doesn't look to be fitting her bust either. So unfortunately, their looks just didn't quite work out. On the other hand, these gentlemen looked absolutely fabulous. We have Brendan Fraser and Jeanne Moore here. I think her dress looks really nice for her, and his tuxedo looks really fabulous and polished. I like the bow tie. Chris Hemsworth looks absolutely fabulous. Despite it being a tad bit wrinkly, I think this was really, really nice. Dwayne Johnson made a big statement with his satin suit, and I absolutely love the pop of burgundy right here underneath. I think that's a really nice touch, and I think he pulled this off really, really well. John Krasinski looked really nice in his off-white suit. Again, I really like the lapel pin. I'm happy to see more guys with lapel pins lately. That's really nice. And Dwayne Wade, I think he was wearing Versace. This looks really nice, really impeccable, perfect tailoring. Riz Ahmed went for a really dramatic silhouette that I think worked out really nicely for him. Sterling K. Brown's tuxedo is fabulous. I like everything about it except for this weird tail coming off this coat. I'm not sure what that is, not sure why it's there. It's got a wrinkle to it. I think that should have been edited out. And Taylor Perez is wearing Prada, and this is a lovely sort of powder cornflower blue. It's a little bit darker shade than we have seen on some of those dresses so far, but it's just really beautiful, and I'm happy at least one guy opted for a pop of color that he pulled off successfully. EU also seems to have a bit of a navy hue to his, a nice lapel pin, looking really polished. The only celebrity I saw wearing Chanel was Billie Eilish, and once again, it's the best she's looked all awards season. This is fabulous. Look, it can be done. She can wear things that she's comfortable in that are not particularly revealing. She prefers, she's made it clear, she prefers not to wear particularly revealing clothes. I totally support that. But that doesn't mean she needs to be frumpy and oversized and turned into a big balloon every single time either. This is so nice. It's polished, it's balanced, it's flattering. It looks really, really nice in every single way. I have no complaints about this look whatsoever. Wearing Schiaparelli, we had Sandra Hüller in this rather aggressive silhouette. The shoulders are just a bit too much in my opinion. It's very sculptural, it's very interesting, but I just don't love it. Doing something with a bit of drama across the neckline like that, it's different, it's new, it's sculptural, but in this case, it just looks maybe a little too over the top. Also in Schiaparelli, we had Emily Blunt with much greater success. This fabric, this creamy, ivory, sparkly dress is so dreamy and fabulous. I love it. It's amazing. But I have two problems with this look overall. First, this floating shoulder situation. Why are the straps up high? It looks so awkward. It's so distracting. It's so unfortunate. At first I thought it was trying to be like a breastplate sort of inspired look, but it's not. I absolutely despise the floating shoulder thing, and she's not the only one who did it. But the rest of the dress I really, really like until you get to the crotch. The way the embellishment, the silver decal is, it literally looks just like a onesie or a bodysuit that was not snapped in the crotch, just hanging down. That's awkward. It's unfortunate. It's creating a focal point right there too, and you don't necessarily want a focal point right there, especially not in that particular shape. If it weren't for that, it would have been a total win. Besides that, her jewelry, her makeup, her hair all looks fabulous and wonderful. It's a true wow moment despite those two errors. And I always want Emily Blunt's looks to be absolutely amazing because I do really like her. So this was unfortunate because it was just almost amazing. The other celebrity trying out the floating strap thing was Florence Pugh. This just added mess and noise and looked strange once again. I think the rest of the dress could have been really successful and looked really, really neat if it weren't for these floating straps. They just created a weird appearance. It looks like there's something fishy going on when there's not. It's just the strap is floating, so it creates the visual that the top doesn't fit properly or that there's something strange happening. And there is something strange happening. Straps should not do that. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know why this was experimented with, but it is decidedly rejected. As for the sculptural hip moment, I think that it's fine. I think it's interesting but not too intrusive on the look. And I think the skirt looks pretty nice. I'll say her hair and makeup are stunning. Gabrielle Union is wearing Carolina Herrera. It's a little stiff looking, but overall I think she pulled it off pretty nicely. It doesn't look like it's falling down in the bust, which is nice. The peplum is beneficial to her figure. It brings balance to her broader shoulders, but it does look a bit frumpy across the midsection. It's definitely not the best thing I've ever seen Carolina Herrera make, but it's definitely not the worst. Wearing leather couture is Leah Lewis, and this has a really beautiful, beautiful construction to it, but it does come across a little bit messy. It's kind of like messy cotton candy happening here. I think the color is really beautiful and the idea is really beautiful, but overall it ended up just looking a little bit like a pile of shredded ribbon at the bottom. Wearing a beautiful purple sparkly dress by Rodarte, we have Marley Martin. This dress, I think it's okay. I think it's a little bit heavy across the neckline here with the shoulders. If it weren't for that, I think it would have been much more flattering to her. And wearing Tamara Ralph, Eva Longoria is looking really nice. The fit of the dress is impeccable. It accentuates her waistline really nicely. The off-the-shoulder look is very intentional looking, so she doesn't look like she's falling out of it or has quad boob, even though it's quite low cut. So this one was done really nicely. I think her hair, makeup, and necklace are perfect for this. But are you ready for some of the least successful looks of the evening? We have a collection of rather frumpy, ill-fitting dresses here that just came off looking a little cheap, definitely not Oscars worthy, and certainly the wrong silhouettes for these ladies. Here we have Janae just looking ginormous and frumpy, and she's not. This is quite unfortunate. It's a combination of this really wide, dramatic neckline, creating a very widening effect to her upper body and not flattering her bust or her arms whatsoever. Also, it's not flattering to her waist. And the location of the skirt is further widening things and making her look extremely frumpy. It's also coming across really, really messy, this tulle skirt. It looks like she's in something that she doesn't even like. Like she knows this doesn't look good and she's wearing it anyway. She doesn't look too pleased. She doesn't look very comfortable. And nothing about this is working nicely for her. So this is extremely disappointing and I feel bad. Melissa McCarthy literally did way too much here. This red dress underneath with the gathering feature across the waist is actually extremely flattering for her. I'm not a huge fan of the way they did the gathering along the waist. It looks a little bit messy, but if it weren't for the balloon sleeve situation and giant hair, I think the dress would have gotten a pass. It would have been at least all right. Pretty nice even. It is a beautiful color and it does look to fit her nicely. But these balloon sleeves are tragic. It comes up on here like linebacker football pads, just humongous big sleeve things, just bulky, awkwardly placed, look like they're tacked on like an afterthought. I don't mind the pinkish color with the red. I think that's kind of fun. It even matches the flowers on the red carpet. I think the train would have been really nice. If the sleeves were just calmer, less intense, less bulky up here, it would have been fine. And the big hair just didn't do her any favors. If you are doing something that's got a lot on the shoulders, which she needed not to, she has a short neck, she needed nothing added to her shoulders. But if you are wearing something with lots happening on the shoulder, an updo is always going to look better than having hair down. And Molly Sims also has something way too chunky happening here. This braided silver band across here is so chunky, so thick, so unflattering. It's unfortunate because the dress itself and this sort of cape coming off of it is beautiful. The color is beautiful. So much of this could have been gorgeous. If this was just thinner, this detail, it would have been fine. But like this, as is, it's terrible. Monet Michael's dress is squashing her boobs. It's very, very unflattering across the bust here, and it looks cheap. The fabric looks wrinkled. It looks poorly made. And Tiffany Smith's dress has a lot of interest and is constructed in a way that is very interesting from a clothing perspective, from a fashion perspective. Very interesting. But for wearability, it is not flattering at all. This is doing nothing for her in any way, shape, or form. Across the bust, she looks extremely droopy. It looks asymmetrical in a bad way, in a non-flattering way. The waistline, the waistband is not hitting her in a nice spot. It's adding bulk to her hips, while there's also bulk to her lower belly and bust area. all of it is creating a really frumpy effect. This dress would have been really interesting to see, say, in a magazine, on the runway. In a much less tragic look, we have Ashley Yee. It looks a little ill-fitting across here, and it's doing something weird around her bust, but I do like the embroidery along the bottom. That looks like it had potential. I'm not quite sure what's going on with this ruffled thing. I'm not sure if it's like a capelet or if it's attached to cuffs or if it's attached to the dress itself. It didn't come across intentional enough for us to understand what it was, so that means it needed a little bit more editing before it hit the red carpet. Grace Gummer's dress was just all right, and Jacqueline Stewart's dress had great potential. This is very reminiscent of the dress Florence Pugh wore that was all red with her cowboy hat. Peplum is flattering, but it could have been lowered a little bit to just be even more flattering for her body type. I don't particularly love the lace-up feature in the back, and the skirt looked ever so slightly too overwhelming. Jamie Ray Newman's dress looked a little too casual and wasn't very flattering around the bust and waist area. Molly McNeary's dress is pretty nice on its own, but I'm not sure it was necessarily the best for her. I feel like it needs something else to tie it all together, perhaps a different hairstyle, perhaps these flowers are just kind of outweighing it a little too much, maybe a better smoothing layer underneath. I don't know, it's just not coming across as polished as you would hope. But Elsa Pataki looked absolutely amazing. Now, this dress has a lot happening to it and a lot going on around the waist with all these cutouts and the deep V and the exposed shoulders, but for once, it seems all right. She seems to be pulling it off. So despite it having a lot going on, she's actually getting away with it here. I think the hairstyle really complemented the look overall as well. Olivia Munn in this really sort of warm, gunmetal-y silver dress in this luscious looking satin looked really nice. It's very tight. You can tell it's a little too tight in her bust area at least, but otherwise it looks really beautiful and polished. She's carrying it quite well, and the color is amazing. I really liked Kelly Ripa's dress despite it having that sheer skirt with just briefs. I think this is probably the most successful I've seen, probably in part because it is black and has texture to it, so it's not letting you focus too directly on the whole briefs situation. I think it's the most successful one I've seen so far of this trend. So I still don't love it, but it's definitely worth noting. And Liza Koshy wearing this beautiful red dress. It looks like it could have benefited from a little bit better fit. There's a little bit of wrinkling here and there, but overall this is really, really beautiful. And the mermaid skirt, the flare to it, balances those big roses on her sleeves really beautifully. And this particular dress, I really like the direction it was going. I think it could have been a little bit more polished in this skirt. It looks ever so slightly wrinkly, but I absolutely love this black and white construction. I think it's very striking. So absolute worst dressed included Erica, Julianne, Janae, Melissa, and Tiffany Smith for sure. Tragic. Tragic for the Oscars, tragic in general. But absolute best dressed, fabulous, hit it out of the park, wonderful all the way, include Anya Taylor-Joy, America Ferrera, Zendaya, Emily Blunt probably, and maybe a handful more. Overall, the Oscars were much better than any other awards show we saw this season, but there still wasn't as many like wow moments as I had hoped for. But what do you think? Please leave it in the comments, and thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.